Hey, what's up, everybody? I hope everybody's been doing amazing. I haven't done the live stream in forever. So if you're just jumping in, say hello in the comments. Let us know that things are working. Most important part, obviously, want to make sure that you hear the audio, hear the voice, everything works. Funny thing, before this live stream, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like get ready. Everything's gonna be fine. And then I sit in front of my computer and I go to find my streaming software. It's not on my computer. Then it dawned on me. I was like, oh my God, Paul, remember you had those NPM issues and your terminal wasn't working and just something was like really broken. And you were like, I have to delete everything from my computer and do a clean install. That's like the only way. It was just the easier way rather than troubleshooting. And then I realized I did not install the streaming software, and I was like, oh God. So like before like the stream, like 10 minutes before, I'm like, let me make sure everything works, let me get it running. Come on, what is happening, you know? And yeah, and so I feel like we're just gonna start. So today we're gonna have a guest on, Simon, amazing dude. He's gonna talk about his what he does, his journey to web development, learning to code, all that great stuff. But one thing that I recently started diving into and try to kind of explore is actually building CLI or command line tools, because there's so many cool things you could do with it. Like for instance, you could auto-generate certain file structures in your code. It's pretty awesome. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about getting started with CLIs. I think that's something that I want to explore. I think it'll be cool for you. And I'm sure you've used CLIs before. We have, for instance, I work at Strappy. We have a Strappy CLI, which allows you to generate like your controller services, you know, middleware, and it makes your job as a developer much easier. So that's pretty cool. And then when Simon jumps on, I'll bring him on. I think it's going to be a lot of fun as you're joining in. And if you haven't shared this on Twitter, go ahead, share this on Twitter. And let me bring Simon on in just a second. Hey, what's up, Simon?
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. I literally finished dinner.
Nice. No, it's okay. By the way, I appreciate you being able to find time. So it's like, it's huge. People in the chat, let us know if the audio is working or not. And if you haven't shared on Twitter, go ahead, share on Twitter. I'm actually going to go ahead and do that as well. Share it on Twitter so more people join. I know it's been like a long time since I streamed. And so, you know, it's going to be interesting, but I'm glad to have Simon here. Funny story, Simon. So I was like, oh, you know, everything's going to be fine. I'm just going to jump into my computer. And I jump on my computer literally 10 minutes before, and I realized my streaming software was not installed. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so in 10 minutes, it's like mission impossible trying to get the bare minimum set up so we could have some sort of, you know, cool experience. But how's your day been? What you been up to? How's it going?
Oh yeah, I finished one of my my trophies for Diablo 3. I've been cleaning out my whole storage. I've been helping my wife. It's like one of those things as a developer, you literally sit and go like, I have not written a single line of code. But it's been fun. It's been nice. So long day, but I'm really enjoying coming here and joining on today. It's gonna be fun.
It is going to be fun. I say that every stream, regardless what happens, but because nobody like this is your first time here, so people don't know you yet. So let's introduce you to the world. And can you give us like a brief sign-ups of how you got started in development, what you've been doing, and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so my name is Simon, or Simon in English. I'm currently, I'm from Norway. I've been living in the UK now for about 8 years, married, no kids. I've actually been married now for 2 years, about 10 days ago. So hey, happy
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So joined in on that. I started off in my development career back in 2011. I just started like with WordPress, did some sites for some people, like a side hustle, you can say. I was actually working as a phone assistant, like selling phones and stuff for like EE, Vodafone, and all those kind of companies. And I moved across here, and I thought, oh yeah, should be easy to get a job as a developer. I mean, I've been doing this for God knows a couple of years. That's like at least 5 years. But everywhere I got, I I only got like senior's position and stuff. And I was looking more into the junior side of things because bear in mind, I've been freelancing and doing WordPress websites for customers. That's all I've been doing. So then I actually took a course called Code Institute, which is a boot camp people can join in on. They're quite global, actually. So I did that for a year, upskilled. One of the funny things for me was when I did the course, this is HTML, CSS, JS, and Python. I sat there and go like, who likes JavaScript? Like, who likes it? Like suicidal language. Who will ever like this language? Like, it's just
a good
undefined here that
language.
everyone.
Come on.
Exactly.
Come on.
But
Yeah.
but here's the thing. So I finished all of the course. I got 2 jobs, picked a job, and then I started to explore more and more and more and more of JS. Right? Now this is 2017. Now I work as a software engineer for Luno in Angular full time, and I also work part time as a mentor for students of Code Institute. So I just got a little badge from them now that I have mentored over 100 people.
Wow, nice.
So I have gone from literally like who likes this language to like just like I pick it any day, like no and like JS or TS. It is night and day difference. It is so fun to kind of think back and say like that I hated it that much, couldn't even understand it, and now it's like I sit with all the other languages and go like, not sure. I mean, I can do it in Python, but I'm kind of like I'll do it in JS. It's so much easier to do it in JS, like syntax and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's interesting because a lot of people have their favorite language and a lot of people have this hate-love relationship with JavaScript. I personally love JavaScript, and and one thing that I like about it is that, you know, because you do have an ecosystem where you could go literally front end and back end with just JavaScript. To me, that's amazing, and it's just easier to find like talent to join the team because it's just JavaScript. And one thing that I noticed, like after meeting you, like how you've created a bunch of CLIs to create like cool things. You have your Dockerize CLI, you're working on Deployify, which is amazing. And so I realized, because I've never done any CLI development, and I realized it's like, wow, that's actually a cool skill to have because it allows you to create cool things that basically improve your development workflow. So can you talk about a little bit about CLI development, how you got into it, and why do you keep doing it still?
So I started dabbling with it before I started with, I mean, Strappy and whatnot. But I started just fiddling around. I tried to like do automations, or I built like a CLI years ago, which was a friend of mine that had an issue on Windows, and all he wanted to do was he had like 3, 4, 5,000 photos from weddings, and it was like everything in a folder. So
Wow.
I thought it must be a better way than say manually, like, oh yeah, drag him around and look at everything. So I just started there. I just had a problem, and I thought, okay, well I know JavaScript. So I thought what I did is I just built him a CLI. He just ran the tool, and he would literally just create the years and the months and everything else from the metadata from the files, and just like put them all in. So then he can start to look into them, and then. He was a developer too, so then he took mine and then he started to improve it to kind of like remove it. And I think now, like 3-4 years later, he still uses it. It's still just locally on his own machine, but he wanted to learn machine learning.
Yeah.
So then he figured out that's a great way. He just backed up all his photos and then he used that as a base to kind of like use machine learning to start to say, okay, these are wedding photos, these are beach, these are like from honeymoons and everything else, and start to organize it. So it's all about just come up with a problem and try solve it in a bunch of way, right? So what I tell my students is make it work and make it better, right? That's like the whole gist of it. When I started with CLIs, it was like the ugliest thing ever. I built some Chrome extensions, which all it does is when you right click, it just makes your whole website black, and then it makes all the borders gets purple, so you can easily spot overflow. I mean, like, it is literally
Nice.
50 lines of the ugliest JavaScript code in the world, but it solves people's problems, right? So whenever you have a problem, try to solve it. And that's how you learn it, because you have to kind of figure out how are you going to solve each problem.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, because even like in front-end development, for instance, in my case, there's certain patterns that I literally repeat, like in Next.js or I started actually learning Remix. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm doing a lot of like either copying, pasting, or a lot of like repeatable, unnecessary typing. And I'm like, if I had a CLI which has certain templates that I could just quickly generate the code, that'll be like fantastic. And so I'm like, you know what, let me learn a little bit. So I guess what I wanted to do today, like on the stream, is do like a kind of intro to CLIs and how to get started and learn a little bit about it. So what is the first step that you recommend, and can you like kind of talk about it?
Yeah. So the first thing I tell people is find a language you love. Like, because theoretically, because it's on a person's machine, pick your language. If it's Python, if it's Rust, if it's Node, whatever, or JavaScript, whatever language you want, right? So for me, if it's JavaScript, all you need is Node.js. That's it. There is no more to it. If it's Python, you just need to install Python. So if you're on Windows, you need to install it. On Mac and Linux, you don't even need to do that. You're good to go straight away. And then, like literally, that's it. That's all you need. After that, it's trying to understand, like what you said with like Node.js, right? So Node.js or any JavaScript thing has a whole ecosystem or whatever you want. And the biggest thing that I had to learn when you're building CLI is you're not in the browser, right? So a lot of people go like, I don't know, document.query selector, do this, pick this, do this. You don't suddenly have that. You can't just like browse the DOM and stuff. So with that, you can use node modules. So now you can interact with the file system. You can read a file, you can change a file, you can create a file, which is kind of like the opposite. So it's more back end development rather than the front end as you're doing it, but it's exactly the same. Then you pick what do you prefer, JavaScript or TypeScript. Like, you can build anything with it. Like you said, I built the Dockerize tool, which is a great example. The big problem for everybody else was with Strapi was to build a Docker file for it, right? People didn't understand and was reading about it and everything else. So all mine is doing is taking the Docker file I already created and literally copy it across. Like, that's it. Like, that's all it's doing. And yes, so my Twitter, oh yeah, you posted it out. There you go. Feel free to follow me or find me on LinkedIn or whatnot. But yeah.
Actually, can you share your blog also? Because you have like really cool articles on your blog that you have.
I'll
off the top of my
post
head.
It out.
I'll
post it out here. There we go. So yeah, there's some like one-liners, but the biggest ones that I have is the Docker with that part. The next part we figure out was what a lot of people were doing with Strapi was now people can containerize it, but people were struggling to deploy it. That was the problem. How do we solve it? Well, we're developers. We can use APIs. So the first thing I did was you've seen it already. It's literally, it automates the whole Heroku deployment. Like, it's what, five questions and push. That's about it. And and the cool part with it is theoretically you can use it on any. Even though it's for Strapi, theoretically the deployify thing for Heroku, as long as there's a Node.js app, you can literally just deploy it. Like, it's just
And to me, that's like pretty awesome. This is why I'm like, I kept listening to you, like showing all your stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much power in CLIs and learning how to create them, because a lot of developers, like when they first start out, they think of like projects to build. They automatically think like a website or an app or something huge, but CLI development is also another great way to continue practicing coding and also create little things that actually are useful because you're solving a problem. And of course, start slow, but I think it's pretty awesome. So it'd be cool, like if we go ahead.
I'll post one for those that had Node.js who wondered who I am. There you go. That was one of the first, most ridiculous, stupidest CLI I can ever do. So if you ever want to start build a CLI, we can build it for that matter. But that's mine. You can run it, and it gives you my CV in the terminal. There you go. Done.
Hold on a second. Actually, let me. We're gonna run the slide. I just, like I was saying before, I totally like messed up my. What do you call it?
I'll answer some of the questions.
Hold on, this disappeared. I'm trying to share screen. Like I literally, oh my gosh, it's gonna tell me. Oh goodness, I don't know what's
I'll
happening.
do it. I'll answer Param's question here. So what's the top Udemy course? I mean, we're both developers and we always have the biggest thing. And the biggest thing that I can say is it depends what path you take. You need
Yes.
to find out. This is a career session that I have with a lot with my students. And I bear in mind that with my students, I sit with them for over a year. I have talks like this for a year with them, so I can kind of like know them a bit. But my biggest tip to you then, Param, is find out if you like backend, which is more data structures, databases, and making a great developer experience or automation, or do you like front end, right? So if you can tell me that, I can probably come up with some courses. But it also then builds on front end.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I have a lot of great recommendation too. And again, like exactly what Simon said, decide what you want to do. But the instructor I follow, because he makes excellent courses, he doesn't put fluff. He also thinks like an engineer, so he's like really good at explaining things. It's this guy, John Smilga, and he got you covered from front end to back end with Node.js. So if you're literally sticking with the JavaScript ecosystem, he has great courses. But before we do that, let's try this. NPX meets Simon.
You're not sharing your screen, by the way.
Oh,
I think.
you might, yeah, sorry, you might not see it because you're in an interview mode, but if you're watching YouTube, I think you will see it. I hope so.
I will try and I will go check. It might be.
Yeah, but if you don't see my,
yeah,
okay, cool. So nice, look at that. Wow, that is pretty cool. You know what? Like, this is a great example. You know, you know what? This is actually pretty genius. Creating a CLI tool that showcases your CV. That is pretty cool. Maybe this is something we could kind of talk about today. Like, how do you start building this? And you don't have to build the whole thing, but maybe we could get like a starting point, because this is a great example. And I really like this. This is like very, very, very cool and very clever. Let me switch back to screens.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me though? Because my microphone just dropped that suddenly.
Oh, no, you're still good. You still sound good. Yeah. Like,
that's
you're still
good.
here. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, we could go ahead. Like, if you want to screen share, or if you want to walk me through like on my screen, like it's fine. Like, what are the steps? Talk about some of the basics.
Well, yeah. If you share yours, then I'll look at yours and I'll give you a little bit of the steps for it. It's kind of like up to you. We could try and make yours like the simplest version of what you need, and then we can play with it. But we can. So there's two ways of doing this, and that is, one, we can kind of like preemptively make. There is a person that I know that makes a lot of CLIs, so he made like a starter template with CLIs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you can run one to just get the basics. But if I do that, then you're not gonna learn how it works, right? Because it's not going to give you what we're doing. So what we could do is just, if you pull up your editor, we can just take it from there.
Yeah, and 1 second, I think your sound was a bit like too loud. I don't know if you could make it a little bit quieter.
Give me 1 second. I'll just rejoin because it's my headset. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yep. Oh man, I'm so excited. Learning CLI development. There's so much cool stuff you could do. So this is going to be like really cool and really awesome. And if you've never tried it, don't let like, oh, I don't know how to do this, because I don't know how to do this either. Don't let fear scare you. Like, try building a CLI, because we're going to try to do it right now. It's going to be like complete failure. But there's so many great things you could do to help in your development process if you have a CLI that helps you do some of the repetitive tasks that you were doing. So when Simon jumps back in, we're going to get back. So I believe Simon's originally from Norway, but he lives in UK right now. And let's bring Simon back. Hello, Simon.
Hello. There we go. Better now?
Yeah, there you go. Everything works. Nice.
There you go.
And we have Ivan joining us. He's amazing. I love this guy. Actually, he's works at Strappy with us. Cool guy. And I got to meet him in person when we went to Lisbon. A lot of him. We got to do it again. But very cool dude. And then Engine Boy says, last time I built a CLI, it was in Python, not yet in JavaScript. But anyway, so you were saying, Simon, that when building a CLI, like, of course, there's like a lot of getting started things you could do. I love this. You're going to love this one. Arthur has like the best comment ever. Hi, Paul. Finally, some civilized time for show. And then, yeah, it's nice. And he's also, I think, from UK, Arthur, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. But I thought, like, I read it too quickly. I thought he said it's not referring to the time, but referring to the person. It's finally to have a civilized guest on a stream, meaning, you know, it's like the joke. Everybody is civilized there, unlike, you know, US. So nice. Excellent. So
right.
what we're going to do is bring it back to like the most important part. So getting started with CLI, and you said start from scratch because that's the best way to learn. And so I was thinking of either like reproducing like what you built. Like in my case, I don't know if it'll be too complex, but what I was looking to do is to figure out how to create a CLI, which will allow me to generate like file structure, and then maybe have like a template that will create, let's say, a controller or whatever, regardless what it is. But I think like maybe getting started with a CLI that creates a file that has something in it. I think that'll be like a good start.
Yeah. What we could do though is, like I said, if you want to share up your screen, we'll start on the basics because we're not going to cover like the input, the outputs, and everything else. We can literally just I'll show you. If you share your screen, we'll just nudge it from there because it is easier than what people are thinking. Like it is really a lot easier than what you're thinking.
And let me make so okay, let's start from step one. So I have a folder. Let's make directory. I'm gonna call it my first CLI, cd my first CLI, open in code editor, just in case oh geez, I closed it so fast. Come on. All right, so we open our code editor, don't close it. So here we have our first CLI that we're working on. We have our folder. So what's the first step? What do we need in here?
So first thing we need is a package JSON. So you can create it, or you can open the terminal and say npm init. That's it. There's no more magic to it really.
My first CLI sounds good. Version 1.1 description. My first. I guess I could skip it, but I'm just gonna say so. Remember.
Yeah. So if you want to skip the whole thing, you can just say -y as well.
Okay, and then here we just want to keep index.js as the entry point for our application, and then test command. What does that refer to?
Nothing.
Oh, that nothing.
So if you have E2E or jest and whatnot. So
got it. So now this generated this file for us. Oh, I have to click yes. Okay, now we should have our package JSON file here, which was generated by running npm init, I believe, right?
There you go.
Perfect.
Right. So the first thing we can do is there is a tiny modification in package JSON we need to do for this to actually run. So in your package JSON, just before main, you can create an entry called bin, and then you give it the name of what we're going to do of the package name. So like mine was meet-simon. So you can do meet Paul if you want to.
Said anyway. Bing?
Yeah, bin. So Bravo, Indigo, November.
Yep.
As in bin. Without the G.
Bin. Sorry, I'm hallucinating.
The
G's
binary.
Binary. Got it.
Binary. And then all you say, that's an object. So then the first part for the key is what you want to type in. So I don't know, meet-Paul in a string. And then the value is index.js.
So like so.
That will be the command you're going to use, and then you're going to tell it just to go to index.js.
Yep.
Oh, and then you need a command line 5.
Yep. I got it.
Yep. There we go. Right. And all you need now is an index.js. That's it.
Perfect.
So once we've done one of those, the next trick is we need to tell npm, because we're not going to like start. We're not going to push this package. You're just going to locally test it all the time, right? So
Yes, sir.
we don't really want to do it.
Yeah.
So all you can do is in the terminal, in the same folder you're in, you say npm link.
npm,
An npm
link.
Yeah, npm link will tell npm that this is a local package, so the command in your bin folder gets set to run that particular file. So it's like
So
npm installing, but it's for a local file. That's it.
Yeah.
npm link.
So there's no additional arguments. Okay,
No.
perfect. Nice.
So that should just run on its own.
Yep.
So then, once you've done it, I don't know, we can go into your index.js and we can create, I normally create an async ify function just to start with. So you want to,
So
I don't know if you know how
like
ifys work.
It's a arrow function that
Yeah.
basically calls.
So you want to make, yeah, so you want to wrap a function around it. So inside the arrow, or so outside the arrow, you want to write the async. Yeah, exactly. We're on the right way. So, but on the first part of it, you want to make async, and async gets wrapped inside. So you're going to wrap all of that inside a banana bracket. Almost. Go all the way to the left.
Yep.
And then make half a banana async. And then close the banana after the curly brackets. So you need to move async.
Hold on. I got you.
Yeah,
So that what is it complaining about? On stream, like I get.
It's because you're async in the wrong order. Async is not after the arrow; it's before the start of the function.
Yeah. There you go.
So,
And then this.
Yeah.
There you go. There we go. It took like forever, but.
So the reason we're doing it is because we wanted to start off to execute this straight away. I am not sure if that's going to actually work, but we can try. I mean, it doesn't have any arguments, so it should work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you something. That way we're doing it a little bit easier for everybody for the time, like so. So, like so.
And where are you sending it to? Like in the comments? Nice.
Yeah, I sent it in your... I can send it in the comment if people want to follow along. This is what I was saying we want to have. There you go. I'll put it in the YouTube channel for those that want to play with it.
Yeah.
So inside this curly brackets is everything we wanted to do when you execute command. That's it. Like, so you can try console log, hello, I'm Paul. Like inside line 2.
Yeah.
Console log it and then run it.
Yeah, so basically, ify is a function that immediately gets called. I haven't written one in like forever, so it was kind of interesting that, it took me a while. And then to run, the command I would run to run my CLI would be just run node index, or can I run by call?
Because you linked it, you can just say meet Paul. That's why we made it like that.
Nice. Let me just.
It should then console log it if the function was written correctly.
It works. So, bin. I just said meet. I didn't. Whatever. It's fine.
So if you want more of them, if you want to have another one, then you can just write another key value inside of it. So you can have meet, and you can have meet Paul, and you can have everything else. So now you can see that's because we didn't write. Yeah, no, you didn't write the ify correctly.
Okay, so let me do this. It's been
channel.
like forever. I'm gonna just copy it. Control copy. So.
But yes, an ify is an immediate invoked functional expression. So it's what you said to people. It's literally just it executes straight away.
Yeah, but this doesn't it need to be like this?
Well, you will need now you need to after. So if you take number 3 out, and then you close it. Yeah, there you go. And now you console log inside of it.
Yeah, so you need to... I swear to God, that's what I wrote the first time. Yeah, but you're missing, in your example, you're missing like that additional like bracket.
Yeah. Never give code away to students.
Yeah.
Not liking it?
Async. Maybe because we're not having an await. Let's try this for now. I'm just kind of curious.
Well, you could take. Yeah, you can. You should be able to take out the async for it.
It still complains. Extra. This is like the.
Yeah, I think we have. This is a daily life of developer.
Yeah, and this is good that like I love failing on life. A lot of people aren't you embarrassed? I'm like, no, because this is exactly what you're going to be running into at home. So it's complaining line. Well, I can't really see anything good.
You can always then just play around with it and not make it anything, and then just make make a console login there.
Yeah, let me just start with the simple things here, just to make sure that we're hitting the.
Even I will sit here sometimes and go like, "Hey, that should work very fine." But
everything I do is even that is it's giving me an issue. Oh, does it not like unexpected token? That's so insane.
Why is it starting to play around with it then? What happens if you say node index.js then? Will it then run?
Okay, that's a good example. Let's see. Maybe it's something to do with oh, that's so weird. So we had everything right, and it was something to do with the command not working right. So
yeah, because when you link it, it needs to update. But yes, so try the iffy one now, even though it's nagging about it. I'll be very smart and I'll actually just grab out the start code from my own, and then we can make our own.
Yeah. That's fine. Unexpected token.
So here's the. That should have been the correct one that I had.
Yeah, let me see here.
It might be that in Node 16 you don't have top async await, do we?
That's actually yeah. It's interesting because that looks correct, but it's not working, and the reason could be it's weird. Like why if we don't do an async and see what happens. And this
then
is
just
like
continue using main.
Invalid unexpected token. That's so weird. Why if we just do this? Let's say function. Like I'm just gonna kind of like for my sanity here. Function. Call it start. Why not? And that could be whatever. Console. The log. Hello world, and then here we'll do start. And so let's see this. And this is kind of good because this is something like people might try on their own and they'll run into issues and they're like, oh, what's happening? And so this is kind of like, by the way, this is a good way to kind of see like, and so that works like that. Let's make it async. And I think I have to put await in front of start, I believe. I don't know.
No,
we'll
because it's not a
returning.
Yeah, so if you do it like that, then you can await it.
Okay.
But yeah, that will make the same thing.
Yeah, so now that works. So the issue was something to do with like the either arrow function, because I could actually like do another sanity check to kind of figure out. So you could do, can you do something like, yeah, like my mic is like right in front of like the keyboard, so it's kind of hard to type.
It's the part when you sit really close to your microphone and talk.
I know. Async.
Yeah, that should also work.
Yeah, so
that's what I meant. What you should have been able to do.
Yeah, so the thing is, it didn't like arrow functions. So there you go. And we could figure out why the answer to that is. But for those of you who like, if you just joined now, by the way, if you haven't smashed the like button and you love watching someone fail live online, definitely smash the like button. But so originally we tried to create an iffy function using arrow functions. It did not work for us. We kept getting issues. So to check our sanity, we created a standard function that we then called. And then we're like, let's just use an iffy function using the function definition rather than arrow function. So I actually don't know the
what
reason why
happened?
that didn't work. Uh,
I don't know. It's really weird. Try this. Take away the word function, like literally the word function, and put an arrow to the left of the banana brackets. Like literally just take off the word function. Yeah, so that is going to be relinked later. So we can try that later. But if you literally take out the function keyword, and then on the other side of the bracket is how I remember it when I refactor, just make an arrow on the other side. That's where you want the arrow, yes. So you want to say async, banana, arrow. The arrow always comes last.
here?
So
No.
so if you go back to what you were at, so like when you had the keyword function. So if you just Control Z back to where you were before when you had the word function.
Yep.
And then take off the keyword function, just take it off. And then go 2 to the right and make an arrow.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. So let's try that again. So now, yeah, that works. I must have like fat fingered something. Yeah. So this, perfect. This works. So, but I'm glad that we went through the process because it kind of shows like, hey, you run into an issue and you go through this process of checking your sanity by trying certain things that, you know, like should work, and then they work. And then you kind of get to this point. So we saw 3 different ways of doing it. Which is perfect. So we still have, so if I run like meet, it still gives us issues.
Try npm link it again. Just, it might be because meet might have been taken or anything. So I would maybe have said meet poll as a second argument. Just to see what it's trying to do.
I'll do like, it's okay to have spaces or no? I know it's a silly question.
No, can't use spaces. So
that makes sense.
Just
I learned that before the hard way, but I just always like, you know, because Mac allows you to do spaces and certain like in your folders names, and then stuff breaks, and I'm like, whatever.
Exactly. Try meet poll now. See if it wants to run.
Still complaining, but it's okay. You could at the moment you could just run it directly, but it'll be great to figure out why.
Yeah, what you can try for fun is try do npm. Let me go. I'm gonna go check one thing from what I had because I wonder if it is where this package thing is. But one thing we can do, even though we haven't installed anything, do an npm install in the folder. I know we haven't installed anything yet, but sometimes Node can be a little bit like it's trying to look for certain values in the project, even though they're not there, to kind of say, oh yeah, you are a package. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's still syntax error unexpected token and async function start.
Yeah. But you can say that it's calling.
Oh, wait a second. It's still that means
point.
It's like so far behind.
Yeah. Because try npm unlink, because that will then take it out of the code. So you can keep what you have. That's absolutely fine. But package in the CLI, npm unlink. Name?
Yep.
Because that takes it away. So now you need to tell it what did you want to remove. So unlink will require either neat or neat poll. We need to do both.
I used I think it went by the name, and then do npm link again.
Yep.
And then meet.
The package name itself in the name should always be the same as the bin name, else you can have issues as well. So you might want to change your my first CLI to be meet poll as well.
That's good to know. I'm glad that we're running into all these issues to kind of figure this stuff out, because this is exactly someone like beginning could get started and they might do exactly the same things that we did and be like, what is happening? Why isn't it not working?
And then I think you can take out main, because we don't need main for an entry point because we're using bin as a CLI. Yeah, so now it's saying this already exists. So line 8 can go.
Line 8.
And then, yeah, like there you go. So what it's saying is you're already doing it, so you can do it with force, because now you had already linked it with a different with the same name. So the scripts and everything else can go, there you go. Like, keep it like that. That's absolutely fine. And then sometimes when you play around with Node and you have to link it and unlink it and keep going, you have to kind of do it a couple of times to actually first make it run. Once it starts to work, then there is no issues with it. It just continues to go by itself.
Oh, maybe it doesn't, like, hold on a second. Let me just delete, because it's still referencing like the old stuff, which makes no sense.
So what you can do then in another way is you can also go into that folder that Mac is telling you where it is, and then you just manually delete the files. If you go into users, blah, 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 bin, and then you kill off the file, and then you should be able to link it again. So if you do rm-rf, if you're on Mac, and then you paste in the whole thing, and then you add meet poll, or find it in Finder, you CD into it. Might be able to CD into it, so you can look at.
Let me CD into it first, just to say, like, for safety.
Yeah, don't click enter now, because then you're going to delete everything.
I know, no, I didn't run it because that would be hilarious. No such file or directory.
Yeah, you used your CD and then paste.
Oh, I forgot to put CD.
So since you're working with CLIs, here's another cool trick. You can use Command and Control to actually go back and forth quicker. So if you hold Control and then space or use the arrows, it will skip quicker.
Oh, good.
And if you're doing the users, then you can't use the home folder, because the tilde symbol is the same as /users poll from SKey.
Okay, so that makes sense. So I gotcha. So that uses, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Learning all this great stuff about terminal stuff.
This is the stuff to learn. And then LS.
Yeah, I'm already there.
You can see what we have.
I'm gonna delete. I deleted it completely.
So you can do meet and meet poll then. We take both.
Yeah, let me delete that one as well. So those are deleted. They are gone.
Yeah.
And
so now you should be able to
link again.
Yeah. And as Ivan said, if we're using bin, yes, there's 100 ways of doing it. I prefer to use the bin method, because then I can just do meet or what you want to do. And Engine Boy already got it, which is nice. There we go. So now we'll see what it does. You should have seen me. I have used npm link in different repos when playing with it, and go like, why is, like, as you said, since we work with Strappy, I did it just does not. Once. So I was working, and you go like, why is it starting Strappy all the time? And I'm kind of like, oh, I forgot. I linked in the wrong way.
It's still complaining.
It still doesn't like it.
It doesn't like the equal.
But then we'll use Node. Yeah. I will just use the Node as simple as in the start.
Yeah, but that means I have to go back here.
Why didn't you open the terminal inside VS Code then? That way we can have both. That's what I do.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like. Yeah, and I could figure out why and what it didn't like. So he says you need bash.
Oh, yes, he's absolutely 100% correct. I actually completely forgot it. What he just gave is user bin node. What that does, it tells bash or the CLI to run it as node. Thank you. See, I don't even read comments in the top of my own.
Dude, Engine Boy, you're amazing. Thank you. Do the NPM link. Hey, Abby, what's up? We did the NPM link. But that didn't work for us. So where would I put this? Because I'm like completely new to CLI development. So
index.js on the first line. So have you ever done bash scripts before?
No, that's what I'm telling you. So, and
okay.
So wait a second. Where am I going?
So always have it on line 1, and then what it will do is you need to take away the spaces. So you need to have everything in, like, you need to have the hash, you need to have the shebang, as we call it, and then there's no spaces between all of them. So it's
even
literally Node. Node is correct. So it should be env. So bin env node.
So bin env node like so, right?
Yeah, I'll paste it as well, like so.
Yeah, that's, I believe that's what I have. So that looks good. There you go. Perfect. And this basically tells this to use Node. That actually makes sense. And so now if I do npm link again,
you shouldn't even need to. Yeah,
I'll just do it just in case. And then meet Paul. And then it didn't fail, but it didn't show our console log. Because I'm an idiot. Because look what I typed. Because I'm an idiot. Everybody knows it publicly now. Perfect. We figured it out. See, and this is why. Hey, let me just stop here for a second. Let me come back here for a second. Let me tell you all. This is why I code live, and I don't care about embarrassment and failure, because you have Simon working. You have people in the comments helping me out. So instead of using just one brain, I get to use mostly all your brains and figure stuff down. And now I'm going to remember. And this is why anybody who's starting on this journey, learning to code, just put stuff out there. Yes, there's going to be haters. They're going to be complaining, and they're idiots. Who cares? But there are also going to be people, like Engine Boy, like Simon, who are going to go ahead and they're going to basically, help out. And let me remove this comment. It's been sitting here for a while. And they're going to help you out and make progress. So we made a lot of progress. So quick review of what we did before we get too far. Let me go back to my terminal. And by the way, Simon and Engine Boy and everybody helping in the comments, thank you so much. So what we did is we created a folder. I called it my first CLI. Inside there, we initiated, we ran npm init to create this pack.json file. We used the bin method to kind of name our CLI so we could run it. That points to our index.js file. The key here, and what we were missing, was this part that basically tells us to use our Node environment. That's why we were having errors. And now we are able to run this code by typing meet Paul. So that was a quick kind of reiteration of what we've done. So what's next, Simon?
Well, like I said, we can do our two first packages, for instance, just to kind of cover that for the fun. So let's say we want to say the one thing I want to iterate to everybody on is console log is like the main thing to log out. There will always be tools, packages where you can make it cleaner and nicer and better, and God knows what you want to do. But for this example, we are just sticking it to the basics, right?
Yep.
So let's do two more for the fun of it. One, let's use colors. I mean, like you saw with mine, having a white screen with everything else is, it looks decent, but adding some colors and whatnot is a lot better. So for that, there is a package that is very kind of, I'm going to say, very, very much used in the Node development, and it's called Chalk.
Yeah.
So that's that. I want it. So if you npm install Chalk into your one, I'll put it.
I forgot to do npm install because I'm rushing. Okay. Did I spell it wrong? No, that's fine. Looking for funding. I'm doing something else. Yeah, that's fine. And actually, let me. By the way, when I'm sure a lot of you know this, but for those of you who are new, a cool place, and I'll just use this as an example. If you just type Chalk npm. It will show the npmjs.com. It's a very great website. Not only are you able to, see what packages are available, get more, but they'll show you some use cases in order, how to use it and all this other great stuff. So this is a great thing for reference. Yeah, fantastic.
I normally say to people, as when you're a new developer, rule number 99 of being a developer: read the documentation. That is how you learn it. It is just by playing, like we're doing right now. Actually, I noticed Strappy was funding them as well. It looks like Strappy had a logo straight up there. But yes, so now we have it. So I'm going to teach you, Paul, a little bit of a trick, because I can see that you're very used to use your single quotes, right? That's very reactive front end type of person, right? You're using single quotes for everything.
Yeah.
A great tip to get used to as a JS developer is to use backticks, especially in Node, because it saves you from concatenating strings and you can use template literals. Right?
Yes.
So like you can say const pol and then just use them.
Right.
I always, whenever I write Node, I even have it in my linter and stuff that everything has to, if it's a string, it has to be backticks.
Got it.
Because
it's easier to do
it
interpolations
helps you
also.
keep
Yeah.
consistent, and you can just start to add in variables as you go. Right. So now, since we already have Chalk installed, let's say hello world in some other colors. So all you need to do is we can do this in we can do it in temporal literal. To do it first, in there is two
So we have
separate ways.
So we have to import the package first, and right. So I have to do like const whatever, call it.
Yeah, but here comes one of those little node things that's a little bit weird to work with. So normally in for instance React and stuff, or at least for me, like when you're using Angular, you use TypeScript, so you use like import with the new modules and all the other stuff. Okay, so in Node, we're also called something called ESM modules, which is just a newer version of how it's working. I'm not going to go too much into details. So I will tell you now that if you require this package, it will not work. And the reason for it is Sindre, who made the package, changed version 5 to be ESM part, which means now you can't say required, you need to say import. And if you're going to use that, we have to change the package JSON, and it's going to be a lot of problems. So I already checked it up. So the version you actually need to install is 4.1.2. So if you do npm install and then chuck at 4.1.2, that's going to save us a bunch of problems.
4.1.2 you said?
Yep, and then you need npm install.
So that's another great thing. So I'm glad that we're talking about this, because this is another thing some people might be unaware. So for instance, there's two different ways to import, like the new way and the older way where you use require, and the newer way where you use import. And so there are packages that will only support the old way. Then there's packages like in this example, why we downgraded is because we wanted to support the old way just so we don't have any headaches. But there's now packages that will only support the new way, and that could be like frustrating if you're kind of not aware of that. And then, of course, to make things crazier, there's packages that support both. Yeah. So, but
there is I'll link it out in the chat. But there is Sindre wrote like a whole how to convert them and everything. So I'll link it out for people if you want to have a small little read on it. Is a little gist. But I am still. In Node.js, I'm still sticking to the good old require. So the way you're doing it now is the new one. So
no. I just because here's I have like some like learning. I don't know, it's a learning disability, but basically like whatever I think, I will type. So in my mind, I was thinking import, so I'll type. So like so we're using. So I'm using the old way const chalk require chalk.
Yeah. So chalk has, if you then wrap, let's say, world in the sentence inside chalk, so then if you want to, we can either create a variable, or we can just wrap the whole console logs things inside of it and say chalk dot, yellow dot bold.
Bold, chalk dot bold. And then you just
that will make it bold. And it... Yeah, so it will be, for instance, chalk.color. Whatever you want.
And what?
So that's not going to color it, but if you say bold and then you say .yellow, it will make it yellow.
Got it. So let me do another one here. So chalk.yellow. And I'm assuming you could like string methods together, like if you wanted like bold and yellow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So instead of making them like two like that, you can say chalk.yellow.bold. Then you will get bold yellow.
Got it. I'll do green dot bold. Let's test it out. Nice. So here you go. It's working beautifully. I know a lot of I love running stuff like in a CLI, but out of a habit, like in the inside VS Code, but out of habit, like I started doing this because it's a little bit more visible for people watching. I don't know. You could let me know in the comments if that actually makes sense or if you have a preference, but I like to switch. So cool. So now we got the color. We got that working. That's fantastic. So what's next?
So, like I say, we could have played a little bit around with whatever we wanted or whatnot, but we could step on and let's say we want to use, well, the CLI is only going to be dumb and you have to fill it in. So why don't we use something like Axios or NodeFetch to go and just yeah. So a great version that I talk about is there's a whole talk about the node or NodeFetch versus fetch versus Axios, and there's a billion of them. Coming from Angular, I'm not a very big person of Axios.
Yeah, me neither.
So I like NodeFetch because it gives you the ability that if you're working from front end, it's like writing fetch. Like literally, it is like writing fetch. It just works. And this is because in your browser, when you use fetch, it has this built into Chrome and all the other ones. In Node, you don't actually have that that version of the API, if that makes sense. So somebody made a NodeFetch version. So that is npm install it.
I'm kind of curious of what they use, if they support both, or do they support
that is a
the
very interesting find to find out. It is literally npm install it, use it once, and you will figure out very much, because if it doesn't work, it will start to throw errors at you.
Yeah, so let's try that. Const fetch equals required node fetch. And let me just console log fetch just for whatever reasons, just to see what we have available. And I should probably do it from within the function. All right, so let's take a look.
And this works in the same way. So fetch is not going to do anything. You need to await it.
So here's the thing. Again, it's complaining about because they're all changing to use the new import. So, and to solve the problem before, what we did is we downgraded. But in this case, like, I mean, we could probably figure out what the last version that used require and downgrade as well. Or is there an easy way to fix this? Isn't there a way you could like rename your, it's been a while, but rename your file that will support the new style import?
Yeah, so one of the things that I learned is you need to install @2, because it's what they're talking about. In version 3, it's ESM. Version 2, it's using the other one. They are talking about it. And then instead of change package JSON, you can actually just npm install NodeFetch @2, and it will just override it in the file, and it will still saves you a little bit of typing.
So install npm install, what was it called again?
Node-fetch @2.
@2, okay, got it. Node-fetch @2. Perfect. And so now it works. Fantastic. I must have read the thing too fast. I'm sure they, like you said, mentioned it somewhere. But this is another like reason why. Yeah, here he goes. Right, this is the example that they were talking about using common JS. So this is like when you were alluding to like reading the documentation. This is why everybody needs to get into a habit of reading documentation, because you're going to be able to find these things and discover these things. And so we're learning a lot. And so this is really cool. And so we got fetch. What would be like a cool thing to fetch?
I don't know. You can do the good old-fashioned JSON placeholder. We can do. I have one. Let's say. Let's make it a little bit of fun, because we can build upon this as a little bit of a different part. Let's say that you ask the person just a trivia question. You know what I mean? I'm just building this upon. I mean, no, it's not like a CV part, but it can be like a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
Just, just do something. So there is I'll post people out a little bit of an API just so people have it into the chat, saving a little bit of people. There is a website called opentdb.com. I'll send it out here. There we go. What I sent you is 10 questions from the OpenTDB API. Like literally, it's 10 questions and answers. Not that we're gonna play around with it, but you can fetch it and then you can try to print some of it.
Yeah. Dude, my comments are working so slow. Come on, comments, come up. I could look at anyway. What was the website again? Open.
OpenTDB.
Open.
OpenTDB.
Yep.
So T for trivia and then DB. Dot org.
Boom,
No,
right
dot
here.
com. Sorry.
Yeah. So here we are. So this is the website.
So then you want to go to API.
Nice.
And then from API, you want to go and click on just generate a URL. That's it. You can tweak it to your heart's content later. But this is where I normally play around a lot with it. And this is where there's a lot of packages that we can use and whatnot, like if we're building it. But, it's just so we can fetch some data, just so we can see the differences out on them. So since you're using async, we can use the wait as well.
Yeah, so const response equals await fetch. I'm going to replace it here. And so, we do still need to do like response.json, and that's like console log the data. Let's check it out. Me eat Paul. Dude. Yeah, perfect. Look, we're getting our data. This is super awesome. We're getting it. Nice.
Yep, there you go. So then it's just playing around with it.
Yeah.
I think some people want you to talk about Udemy.
So listen, Udemy, here's the thing that I'm going to say. Like a lot of people, first of all, let me preface this with, I have over 1,500 courses on Udemy. I only took like 10 of them. I spent bajillionth amount of money that probably could have bought me a new car, to be honest, at this point. So let me kind of talk about Udemy for a second, and then we'll come back to this, just because there's a lot of people that feel that your solution to learning to code is more Udemy courses. What I recommend, the most Udemy courses you should probably have is 5, like if you're going to go that route. Like one HTML, and I'm going to preface it from the standpoint of front-end development. One HTML and CSS course, one JavaScript course, one React course, and Node course. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4 courses. Everything you're going to learn from those courses is repeated in all the other courses that you will buy on Udemy. I know this from the fact because there's 10 courses that basically teach you the same thing. What you should be doing after you buy your first 4 courses, complete all the projects from start to finish. After you complete the projects, build your own version based on what you learned based on the course that you took. So you took 4 courses, you should have 4 projects that you built from scratch based on the knowledge that you got from those courses. And what you do after that is you look at that documentation and you just only focus building, I almost swore. I am going to swear because it's important, building shit from scratch. This is the biggest mistake I made in my development journey, is I was stuck in perpetual,
tutorial hell.
Yes, tutorial hell that I wasted 2-3 years. I could have had a job faster. So 4 courses, all you need. Learn and build stuff based on what you learn from those courses. You should have 4 projects, and then after that, just build your own stuff from scratch and fail like I'm doing, like fail publicly. I stream publicly for exactly the same reason, because I want to force myself practicing, developing things from scratch and interacting with other people in the community, and then just building things. That is the most important thing. So I urge all of you to limit yourself to 4 courses. I know it's hard, but by limiting yourself, you're setting constraints in your learning. And then I guarantee you, because I've done it, after a course that you learn, you're going to have the knowledge to build something from scratch. And if you can't, review that same exact course. Don't buy another one, and then build stuff from scratch. But that's me and my rant. And by the way, if you are looking for excellent courses on web development, John Smilga, he also has a YouTube channel called Coding Addict. He's the best out of all, I'm sure, by the way, let me preface this. Find an instructor that you like, but if you want to listen to my opinion, John Smilga has the best courses, and I'll tell you why. Because first of all, they're a massive amount of material, but majority of it, it's just him forcing you to build stuff. There's so many examples that you have to build that by the time you finish the course, you're gonna be like, I get it, I understand. But anyway, enough about that. Let's come back to the most important stuff, is our CLIs.
Just to add into it, since we're talking about it, is I totally agree with you. One of my students, they have 5. Bearing in mind that 4 and 5 is split into 2 because it is like literally a full stack course with backend and front end. So again, when you're saying 5 is max, that's kind of like what I recommend as well. One shout out I want to give for one Udemy course that's kind of like on the side of what you're saying from all of them, and it only covers CSS or SAS and CSS, is from, I think it's called Advanced CSS, from Jonas Schmettman, I think his name is
Yeah,
Swedish.
I have that course as
But
well.
that is for me like the best CSS course ever. Like if you take a HTML basic course and you take his CSS course, then like you said with the other guy that you were recommending, you can build anything with him because he covers so much ground just on the CSS bit.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say, like the most important thing, like if you pick any one of the top instructors in Udemy, you're going to get a course. So find someone that you enjoy and don't buy courses for the sake of courses. For instance, if you have a CSS course already and you bought like 4 more, like what are you doing? Like I've done that. I spent way too much money than I should have. But I'm just saying like you don't need it. Like I'll give you an example. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. I used to do it a long time ago, and I finally went back to it again. Thank God. I needed it. But in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you could learn all the theory, you could learn all the moves, but at the end of the day, you have to fight. And you could come to all the classes you want. If you don't do the sparring session, which is basically full-on fighting, grappling with full resistance, you're not going to learn anything. You could come for years, and if you don't do the sparring, or you, in coding terms, you don't sit at home in your code editor and code stuff yourself by yourself, you're not going to get better. And that's the facts. I'm only saying it because it will save you time if you get this
absolutely
early.
I agree with you. I also say that like from I know Brad personally because he made a video of one of my VS Code plugins years ago. So Brad is amazing. Jonas is great. Max is also really good, though I find Max to be he's very beginner friendly, like in that case. But after following 1 or 2 of them, you get stuck in tutorial hell because you will get out of his course and say like, I have no clue what to build. And the only way to get out of tutorial hell is stop doing the courses, think of a problem, and solve it. If you want to build a website, then learn. If you're learning HTML and CSS, then follow along what they're doing, but purposely build it. If he's making it blue, make it purple. If he's using some sort of JavaScript, then build something else on top of it and then take it from there. Because if you follow it and just follow it, you're not going to learn it on your own. And that's why we were talking with the CLI part. It's being a developer is, in my opinion, 60% sitting and reading documentation, trying to figure out how to solve it, and 40% writing the actual code for doing it, splitting it down. And then a lot of people say, oh yeah, but that's really simple. That's just a function. That's, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But the way I like to think of JavaScript sometimes is kind of like driving a car. So I'll make this an example with you then, Paul. You got a driver's license, right?
Yes.
Like me. Okay, cool. So how long you had your driver's license for?
Forever.
Okay, so if you think back, the first time when you got your driver's license, me too, right? But if you think back and you say the first day you got your driver's license, right? You rocked up to your car, got to your local roundabout, right? You would kill the car, you will kneel it, you will stop it, people will honk the horn, and you're going to sit there all stressed out and go like, oh, spend like 10 minutes just get out in the roundabout, right? You can't get out of it. But if you do it now, you've done 100,000 miles on the car, just as much as 100,000 lines of code. You don't even look at the same roundabout anymore. You just drive through it. Like you automatically just know if you can drive or not. And that is because you have done it so many times and you practice it a lot, which is back to what you were talking about, sparring, right?
Yes.
So what other people have said is find a tutorial or a person on Udemy that you like and follow along with them. But the only way to start being an actual developer on your own time is by failing. Literally, that's what we're doing here. Like, literally, live now is
that's.
I have written 100%. So much JS and so many CLIs, and we sit here with a silliest thing of forgetting a comment, right? But it's because it's not the first thing you think about when you build them, and that's kind of like the actual learning thing. So
Yeah, and one thing I just wanted to quickly mention, just back to CLIs, because obviously we're not gonna. My cat is like zooming in my camera somehow. I don't know how. It's funny. I don't even know how to fix that at this point. But back to, I just wanted to share this. So like when you're building CLI, especially in Node, there's a lot of methods and that you have available. So checking out the Node documentation and kind of looking like and seeing, searching for like the things that you want to accomplish. And a lot of the stuff like you'll be able to use like literally directly from Node, not needing to install like certain packages. So I just want to kind of throw that out there as a resource. But what
I'm
we
also
have
going to
done,
add to you that make sure you pick your right Node versions, because there's a big difference between 16 and 18.
yes,
When
yes,
we're talking about it.
yes, very good. So I'm on 18. So definitely picking the right Node version. That is a very good, very, 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 very good point. Thank you. That already I know saved me hours of struggle that I would have had if I didn't know. But yeah, no, this is great. So
like to give an example from 18 to from 16 to 18. Remember we just installed Node Fetch.
yeah.
18 has Fetch built in.
Oh,
It's experimental,
nice.
but it's built
But
in,
it's in
and that's
there.
because
Yeah,
everybody's yeah. So then you suddenly sit in the wrong documentation and go like, why is Fetch not working? And then you go, oh, because I wrote the wrong part. But yeah, it's all about them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think like based on and okay, so before we let's do one final thing. Let's write like when you write output in the console, is there like do you just use console log, or is there's another way of doing things?
Console log.
Just console log it.
Console
Got
log.
it.
Yeah. So you can use console log, console table, console. Oh, there is the whole console thing has hundreds of different ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's literally console log into it.
Nice.
That's all you need to actually output it.
So
you can also, because
let me
it's
just
a CLI, you can do
go back here for a second. So if you're just joining on, if you haven't seen, was it NPX meet Simon?
Yeah.
Oh. So this is basically what Simon did as one of his CLIs to basically show his CV. And I think, like, to be honest, looking at this, based on what we talked about, you could literally build this exact thing. So I think like what I would do is everybody who watched the stream, I know like the longer they go, the more people drop off. But if you made it this far, you could literally build this CV, similar type application. And based on what we learned, because basically what he's doing, he is, formatting, his name, some basic description, his links. And then here on the bottom, you could see that he has, some GitHub followers and GitHub repos information. And so if we take a look at what we covered today, we basically...
Share your screen. And I'll share your screen.
God damn it. Thank you for reminding me. Son of a, I got to do it again. So let me clear this again. So
let's talk about me again.
Let's talk about Simon again. So he created this basic CLI example for us to share to kind of show us what is possible. I mean, there's more things, but I feel like based on what we learned, this is something you could do. And this is something that I'm going to do after the stream. But basically, he has his CV that you could view in the terminal, which is awesome. It has like his name, which is formatted, with colors and what have you. He has his basic contact information. And then here he has his GitHub followers and GitHub repos. And if we take a look at what we've done so far, so we learned how to set up our basic, CLI. We have our package file. We hooked it up to be able to run when we type meet Paul in our case. And we literally know exactly how to style our console log output by using Chalk, which is a package we downloaded from NPM. We also downloaded Node Fetch from NPM, which allows us to fetch data, which we're not getting data from GitHub like Simon is. We're just using an API that exists. But if we take a look at when I run meet Paul, you see that we have access to the data. So what I could do is I could get the function to like iterate to this data and console log it to our terminal. So we do have the exact same knowledge that you need to do exactly what Simon created. And I think this would be like a great, stopping point just in terms of like getting too deep into it, because I feel like it'll be great for people to create a simple CLI first and get it running on your machine, even figure out how to put it on NPM so people could run it from like using NPX like Simon. So actually, let me ask you that as a final question, Simon. If I wanted to run it as an NPX like yours, what is the step process that I would have to follow?
npm publish.
So npm publish.
You would need to have an account on npm.js.
Yep.
And then once you have it, it will give you an API token that you need to do. So then you log in with npm. I think it's npm login.
Yeah.
You go into the CLI repo and you do npm push. And that's why the name in the package JSON and the bin is really important, because that's the name of the package. And once you publish it, you can't really take it out. Exactly. You can't just rename it or anything like that. So be pickful when you do it. But yeah, that's technically all you need. You log in, you publish, and you're good.
Yep. And I do have an account, so I'll do that later. But I just wanted to say, based on your demo, and anybody could, we could have throw the command in the chat if anybody wants to run npx means Simon, super easy to remember. The same CLI he created, you can now create based on everything we talked about and learned today. And so my challenge to all of you who were able to make it or watch, go ahead, create your own meet, whatever your name is, CLI, share it on Twitter, text Simon at, his Twitter. I'll share it again here, or he could throw on the name just in, and tag me and just share it. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create my CV as a CLI. I think this is pretty awesome. And so anything that you want to add in terms of CLI before we kind of talk about just general like coding stuff for a little bit? Maybe do another 5-10 minutes.
I think that the coolest part with learning how to use CLIs is it teaches you how to work with the file system, right? Start easy, make a CLI that's working, share it, tweet it, tag me in it, and then showcase what you're doing. Because let's say you want to, when we go down the road of you want to get hired, right? A lot of people, you're a front-end developer, you expect to have a website, but you're a back-end developer and you're showcasing front-end skills. So why not just make it as easy as, oh yeah, you want my CV, here you go. Like I have one of my business cards that has, like, I can tap it on people's phone and they can scan a QR code and get it. I actually have that command just written in, so people that are recruiters or people that are developers go like, oh, they'll just run it to get all the information from it. So it's quite cool to be like on the back end side of things to just like, oh, here you go. If you want to kind of like build upon not you doing it and not just recommit it, then use, I know, like we talked about with Strappy, I had mine with just all the basic information I wanted from Strappy. And like, just all the backend stuff that I needed, all it's doing is just go fetch it. Yeah. And then it just prints out all the information. Done. Like, and then I can just go change it. So now I have like a front end website and a backend or like a CLI tool. And I have one place to go change them, right? That's it. And just cool. Start challenging yourself. Yeah, but it's all about challenging yourself. Solve a problem. Find something you want to do. You want to automate something. You can do that. Anything you can do on a computer, you can technically do in Node. There is nothing saying you can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point. Thank you for sharing the knowledge. Actually, I see like one question here. Somebody says, I was Zayg. I don't know if he's still on. He's like, do you need PHP to be a front-end web developer? And to be honest, like there's so many different paths to being a front-end developer that, you could, like in our case, we both love JavaScript from the standpoint that you could build your front end with JavaScript and you could also build your back end with JavaScript. So we don't need to learn another language unless we wanted to, right, for what we're doing. So there's definitely jobs available in PHP. What I would say is that it's up to you, like, to take a look in your area, what's more popular. Because certain areas, for instance, really love React. And then I talk to other people where they live. They're like, oh no, C# is like the thing that we need to know. And then in some countries, they're like PHP is still the most popular thing. So find the technology that is popular in your area that will allow you to get hired faster and learn that first. But in my case, and then many people that I talk to, sticking to JavaScript ecosystems tends to be the fastest way to get hired. I don't know if it's you think a similar experience for you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's one of those. It's the same thing I say to my students. It's learn, pick, look in your area. So, for instance, if you're going for front end, find out is it Angular, React. Like, do a sample. Like I said, go and find like 10 jobs on the job board in your area or an area you want to work. As a developer, we can literally work anywhere in the world, anyways. But find what stack it is and what language it is and what you want to learn, and then what I become is quite what you call language agnostic, and that is not really like a hard thing. It's more a flavor and preference. It's just that if I write JavaScript or Node or C# or I don't know Dart or Flutter or God knows whatever the language is, for me it's gotten to the point that the language is still the same. Like if you think about it, a for loop, it's going to be a for loop depending on whatever language you're doing it. So you have to find your preference, what you like to do.
The one caveat I would say to that is I feel the same way now, but there was a point in my life where the biggest mistake I made as a brand new developer, I tried to learn multiple languages at once, which was a complete failure. What fixed this, I literally ended up focusing on one language and learn it properly, really understand it. And once I did that, I was able to look at other languages and literally be like, oh, it's the only syntax different, but everything else that's in programming, like, loops, if statements, it's all the same. And then you'll be able to kind of make sense of it and pick up a second language or third language like way faster. But please learn one main language first, rather try to learn everything at once. That would be like my tip on that.
The biggest tip I tell my students when it comes to it, because they learn JS and Python, everything like programming languages. And I normally say to people, if you prefer making websites, learn JS, because you can use Node and you can use JS. If you like to be heavy on the backend side and you like to kind of like build programs and everything else, then Python is really good. Like Python is supposed to be easier to learn. Now, I find it, from being so many years in JavaScript, I find it not so easy. And that's just because I'm used to just add some curly braces and just put in white spaces and semicolons wherever I please. And you go to Python and you write 100 lines of code and it goes like, you screwed up line 3. And I go, oh, okay, so fix line 3. And now you have to fix like line 4 to 99 as well. So I don't like it. Then what the path I took was I learned HTML, CSS, I learned JS, and then I did TS, as in TypeScript. And from TypeScript, I was able to learn more C#, Flutter, so Dart, and everything else. Because like TypeScript and C#, the only big, or Java for that matter, not JavaScript, is in TypeScript, we would have said, I don't know, const my var is a string, if that makes sense, then whatever it is. And in C# or in Java, you would say string my var whatever, like so it's just flipping it around. So but the JS to TS was one of those things that really made me a good developer. I still love TS, and the biggest difference for me saying it to people is it's not that TypeScript is better, because it's still JavaScript, but it is just safer to type. But what you have to go through is kind of like what you said, with all the pain and glory of going through, MMA and stuff. You have to go in and fight your IDE, because it's going to go like, no, this is wrong and this is wrong, and by the way, everything you're doing is wrong. And then when you start to understand what is actually wrong and you fix it, you will preempt where you're actually doing it wrong. And then you start to become more aware of, oh yeah, no, it's not a string, and then it starts to actually help you rather than work against you. But it's a big uphill. I normally tell people and students, HTML, CSS is like between 1 and 3 out of 10. JS is suddenly 8 out of 10, because it's a completely different way of thinking over the way you're doing it. Yes, and for Engine Boy saying the answer is any is yes, and when you say any, you're also just making a JavaScript because then you're not actually making a TypeScript. so you want to try learn not to do it, but it's a great way to just go like, oh, it's a type of any.
Yeah, I think he was doing
I have
like
seen
the joke, like in the
yeah,
interview.
no, absolutely.
It's
I
hilarious.
saw a guy in my previous job. This was like my first day in the office. So I did a pull request. I was looking at the guy's code. So he made an interface in TypeScript. So for those that don't know, it's technically a way to tell what something looks like or how what it is supposed to be. And he then made this interface of something, and he had like 5 different variables, but like hair color and eye color and whatnot, like all of them, and all of them had a type of any, which is really great because then we were sitting here, why would you make an interface that has everything as a type of any and give it a type? Like that's not how it works. But it's one of those funny things to deal with it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I think this was great. Learn a lot. I'm excited. This was actually a really great entry point to building CLIs because now you at least have a project that you started. And like you said, like you're saying, have it run first and then improve on it. And I think this is exactly what we did. We built something that runs, and then now we could start adding additional features as we learn and go. And I really like that approach. Yeah, so thanks a lot for stopping by. Always welcome anytime. And I'd love to continue improving my CLI development journey as well. So very cool, very cool. Any last words of wisdom before we head out? Because I do want to be mindful of your time. We're about to hit the 1 hour and 30 minutes.
I'm not on a rush tonight, so I'm all good on time. But I didn't really know. Like, to become a good developer, I guess it's all about learning and exploring, and knowing that if you fail, you haven't failed. That's how you learn. Like the biggest thing I tell all my students is, the biggest thing I tell all my students is that if you're comfortable writing your code, you're not learning. If you sit there and go like, oh, I can't make it work, and you spend hours in trying solving it, that's how you learn. That's how you become a lot better than what you're doing, because you will sit there and find all the problems in the world, and you're not going to sit and solve the problems you come up with. You can make a problem, but what I learned and told myself is, if I come up with a problem, I already know the solution.
Yeah.
Because I came up with a problem. But if somebody else comes up with a problem, then I don't know the solution. So then you're suddenly instantly put in this state where you're feeling like really like shaky and don't know what you're going to do or how you're going to solve it. And that's when your actual brain is starting to want to work and you want to find out and chug through the information.
Yeah, no, like 100%. And that's something that's been like really important to me, is that understanding that when you fail, like you don't fail, you learn and you get better. And so a lot of people are afraid of failure. They're afraid of trying things out, and it actually stumps your progress. And this is why like I do these live streams when I code online, where all I do is fail. And some people like tell me like I talked to people before where they say stuff like, oh, like I don't want to put anything online, like people gonna judge me, like I'm like not gonna. And I'm like, no, you have to like embrace failure, because that's how you get better faster. And the more people you get involved, that's why, like in our example today, we had a bunch of issues. You were able to jump in, people in our comments were able to jump in, and we were able to, like, I was literally like, this is why I say fail publicly or learn publicly. Like when coding, share your projects, because now you're reaching out to other people in the community. So your rate of iteration and learning increases, because now it's not just your brain by yourself trying to figure things out. You have all these other people in the community that could help you out. So you literally like increase your rate of learning. And that's why I still have this YouTube channel. It's not because I don't make any money. If anything, it takes time away from my job. But the reason I have this YouTube channel is to force myself to publicly code, try things out, invite cool people to learn more things that I'm interested in. So instead of just using my brain, I'm using everybody's brain to help me like get better. And I think that's the way to do it. And with that being said, because like I work at Strappy, we have like Discord community, you're present on our community. So can you talk about like this idea of engaging in other communities and where like open source projects fit in? And is this something you would recommend for new developers trying out to, start learning?
So yeah, I've been part of the Strappy community where you work for now since their gold beta alpha version 3 something.
Yeah,
It was like
yes, a while.
3 years, I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
long time now. And I kind of find like talking with like-minded people, like we were having one of the community calls a little while ago, and somebody asked like, "Oh, I have this problem. What should I do?" Right? Like, how do I solve this problem? Is there a plugin to do it? Right? And like I said to him at that time is, I don't think it is, but you could always make one. And his answer was he didn't know how to do it. Right? And then that's kind of like build you to say, well, that's definitely why you should try do it then. Because one, you will solve your problem, and B, you will start to learn a lot more how to do it. Right? And you build one, and then you build two, and that's kind of like what I did. I worked in a professional manner with Strappy, one of my works, and they're building custom things for literally everything, right? And I have to sit there and come up with, how do I work it? How do I do it? How am I supposed to come up with all these things and whatnot, right? I had one of the calls for the Strappy Conf that was last year, and I kind of like came up with a solution for how to like transfer data from A to B. I built it. I just never got to release it finished in 3. So now I'm kind of like rebuilding it into 4. And that's how I am learning for it, because I'm building tools for it. I'm not actually using it. So I still feel a little bit uncomfortable sitting in the Strappy thing and trying to answer people's questions, right? Because I don't know how I'm going to do it and whatnot. And I'll figure out the only way I'm going to do that is if I start to make that plugin in 4, then I'm going to sit there and ask questions. Now I'm going to sit there and try to solve it. But then suddenly I solve a lot of people's code and their problems, right? So that's kind of like what I like with the open source community is you are helping other people solving problems, but you're learning as you go, right? So like you said, I built the deploy-fly plugin for Strappy, where it's not even a plugin, but a CLI tool. And I built it. It's like it was working, was fine, and everything else. And one of the other developers said, "Oh yeah, maybe you should change this and this and this." And I said, "Oh yeah, that sounds a little bit cool. I'm not really sure like how I'm gonna do that." So he jumped in and started to do it, and now we're both actively working on it. And it's one of those things that you will meet a lot of people that are thinking about the same things that you are. And then one thing that I say to people is, or at least my students, and this builds upon the part what we just said with communities, is you will get to know one person, and then maybe you have them on LinkedIn or Twitter or everything else, and that person might know a person that might know another person that might know a recruiter that might actually land your job. That's 100%. All about that networking thing. And then recruiters and hiring managers, like I've been on myself, is you can build the most beautiful website ever, and you can sit in an interview and absolutely completely flunk it, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the things that I did, like I had a job interview once, which was my first Angular job. I had never even touched Angular until that point. What I did was I literally jumped on YouTube and found JavaScript Media's old version about Angular, right? And I had like 3 days to build a whole CRUD operation and everything else. And all I did was ask them questions, right? I was just using a Star Wars API. I still remember to this day, and asking them questions. Is this kind of what you want to do? They would say missing documentation. And I actually got the job.
Wow.
Not because I didn't know a lot about it, but they thought that if you are a junior developer, it's not about knowing everything. It's about learning.
Yes.
And
it's being proactive with that. 100%.
Yes.
100%.
And I say to my students that have been doing HTML, CSS, JS, and Python for about a year, right, is if you go to a recruiter for an interview and they go like, "Oh yeah, no, why should we hire you? Like, you don't know anything. I mean, like, you're a junior." So, they come in with this mindset that is supposed to know everything.
Yeah.
And I said to them, flip around the way you say it if you're a junior and go to them, "Oh yeah, by the way, I know I might be new, but I did learn HTML, CSS, JS, Python, Bootstrap, Django, Flask, React, God knows, like 5, 6, 7, 8 different things. Oh, by the way, in the span of a year. So give me 3 months with React and see how I do."
Yeah.
Full time. And that was, by the way, part time, right? So now we're flipping around, showing how much I can soak up of information as a junior.
And you know what's amazing about that? Like, people who watch my YouTube channel, go look at the very first video I've done, because that's a video where I did not have a job as a developer. And I literally kept this YouTube channel to show people that I'm all about learning new things. I'm not afraid to fail, and they see my progress. And it's like, that's what people want to see from beginners, is your curiosity and your ability to learn. Even though, especially when you start out, you might not know anything, and just being kind of outgoing and not being deterred by failure. And you will all get there. And the point to you that I want to say, getting involved in communities, meeting people, building like friends who are in the business, like you said, eventually someone will know someone who will probably recommend you for a job. And I say this a lot of people don't want to hear this, but networking is 95%, and it has been in my case, of getting a job where you're going to get hired. All my jobs that I had always were done by word of mouth, or someone referred me to it. And the reason why it's awesome is because if you randomly send out your resumes, they will go through the auto reader, probably automatically get declined. And probably that's going to be your case most of the time. Or if they do accept it, you're competing, you know, against people that were referred to that same company, and those people are going to kind of be held on top of the page. So you would have to be like super amazing. So every job I had, like, people will like literally deliver my resume to whoever makes that decision, and I would at least have the interview. I mean, granted, you have to do well on the interview. I mean, you still have to carry your weight at some point, but getting into the door, networking, making connections, asking people to refer you to companies, is by far the easiest way, because I heard stories of people graduating boot camps who would send 300, 400 resumes just to get 4 to 5 interviews and maybe get 2 offers. Where for me, like, I'm literally going to say I've been lucky, like literally lucky, because every job that I applied to was always with someone who works at the company that would refer me, and I always had an interview. And in some cases, like, would get hired. And to me, just the amount of like I don't want to say it's easier, but like, to me, that makes sense, you know, makes perfect sense.
I'm kind of like that person that when we talk interviews, I'm kind of like that also, that says to people that if you come into an interview and you absolutely just fail it, right? Like, as an example, because that happens, like, it happens to me, it happens to anybody that does it,
times,
right?
Yeah.
And people will say, they go like, oh yeah, no, I'm not good enough and everything else. Then technically what I told myself, and I told myself is, it's not that company wasn't for me then. Because if you try to get a job and you kind of like, I'm not going to say you cheat, but let's say you just, do your best in the way you're doing, right? And then what you're going to have end up doing is you're going to sit so uncomfortable at every day at work and feel like you never pulled your weight, right? Yeah, exactly, right? It hits everybody. So what I say to people is, just take each interview you do with a grain of salt, right? And if you are a junior, remember that a senior is there to help you, right? That's why a senior get more pay, because we're there to help juniors, to let you grow, right?
Yeah.
As a junior, you're not hired as a junior to pull your own weight. You're hired as a junior to learn and be shaped and molded to what the company needs. Right? When you are ready, then you become like a midpoint, as we call it, or a mid-dem. And from there, you become a senior. When you're a senior, the roles shift around. Then it's more or less you helping and teaching other people rather than actually pulling a lot of weight. A lot of people think like it's just a lot of money for a senior, but in a senior role, at least, it's more people management and teaching people rather than actually sit and write a lot of code. At least certain companies will have that. I mean, like, you go big companies like Google and whatnot, which is completely different. But yeah, it's one of those that if you fail the interview, go for the next one. But you will get more interviews when you link up with people like LinkedIn and Twitter, and you have something to showcase for. I always say to people that if you're a junior, make sure you have your own website. And a lot of my students say, but why? Like,
so important.
Like, why should I have it? And I kind of say to them, well, think about this. Let's say you run a restaurant and you're going to hire a chef, right? He can make the greatest food in the world, and you're going to sit there and like drool, just like think about his food. And you ask him, so how long did you put that steak in for? I don't know. That's going to be worried. Like if you ask him, like, what knife sets do you have at home, right? If that's like a Michelin star chef, and he goes like, "Oh yeah, I brought my knives at IKEA," that would be worrying to me, right? Because he should know what it's doing. So if you're a front end developer, put your website out, because your website and your GitHub profile will sell you. It's an instant sell tool to everybody. And then using LinkedIn and Twitter to get to know people and open communities like the Shopee community, that's how you can showcase and get known to other people. And like Shopee has done for me, a lot of the tools I built, the first time I built one of the tools and they got shouted out, I had about 5 recruiters come to me going, "Hey, we have this Node.js CLI job that we're looking for." I'm kind of like, I'm not actually looking, right? So you get into the point where they are coming to you. That's where I am now. But that is taking me 5 years to get to the point.
Yeah.
And I've been 5 years on the other side of it.
And people will get there. Like consistency is like super important. Like to put things in perspective, to people that are listening, I switched careers into web development. I didn't really start learning to code seriously until I was 36 years old. And my first job I got at 39 years old, which was like super low pay. It was like terrible. And then my second job was like way better. The pay was higher. And then I got hired at Strappy, which is my dream company. So like, cause I love Strappy. And so, but it's like you stay consistent, you will get better. And the one thing I would say, like we touched about earlier before, it's like, don't think about how many Udemy courses you have to take. What's the best one? Literally just need few, like 4 or 5. But then it's mostly struggling and failing through building projects from scratch yourself. That's where all the learning happens. And everybody who takes that route, you will get there, you will learn, you will get hired. But I'll just tell you this, like when I used to apply to jobs before, I thought it was my age. And I was like, oh, it's ageism. They don't want to hire me because I'm old. And maybe that might be the case. But the more of a reason was my skill level did not match their expectation of what they needed. And once I got to a point where I have the knowledge, I have the skills, all of a sudden more doors started to be opening. So don't let all these, like I know I'm on YouTube, whatever, but don't let all these YouTubers fool you that there's a secret, there's a quick and fast and easy path to learning to code. There isn't. There is no secret. It's just hard work, coding, building things from scratch, failing through the process, and putting in your time. And a lot of people that don't like really understand what that means, they fail. Like I had a girl that started with me when I started my community. She literally wanted to transition. She did some stuff like with law, like I forgot what it was exactly, but she didn't really like it. It was like too toxic, the environment she worked in. So she wanted to learn like development. And I told her, take these 3 courses, build lots of stuff. And that's what she did. She didn't ask me like for help. Like I helped her when I could, but she never looked for me like to help me. Like, oh no, Paul has to help me. Otherwise without him, I won't be able to get this job. No, she's like, I'm going to get this job no matter what. I just put in my time. I'm going to work hard. If I don't get the interview, I'm going to ask, why did I not pass this interview? I'm going to make those changes, keep working. But then I had another gentleman, and they've both been in my community for 2 years. He asked me a question, like at the beginning, like to check his resume. I gave him changes, what he needed to do. A year and a half later, he asked me what tips I have for his resume. And I said to him, did you make my previous changes I asked you to do a year and a half ago? He's like, no. I'm like, then like that's the changes you have to make. In the meantime, this chick, she learned to code in 6 months. And in the past like year and a half, she's already been working as a React developer. And to me, like it blew my mind. It really is. The secret is you and the actions you take. Are you wasting time or are you learning to code and building projects?
I tend to say to my students when we talk consistency. So this is the way I explain to people.
Consistency is the secret.
Learning how to code is like going to the gym, right? So if you take Udemy into this, is like having a personal trainer, right? Which is just, let's say just a personal trainer. It's not going to push you, right? So you learning the basics is like a coach or a personal trainer coming to you and saying, oh yeah, you need to do this reps with this machine to do it with this. If you, I don't know, like me, you want to lose weight, right? He's not going to do it for me. So if I get stuck with him and like pay, he's still going to say the same thing, right? You need to do these reps. You need to do doing it. You need to eat this food, right? And the only way that I'm going to start to lose weight is if I actually go to the gym and start doing it.
And do the
right?
actual
And then
work.
the actual work, right? And then the way I thought about it was, I actually said this to one of my students. That is, I had a period when I thought, okay, I wanted to lose some weight, so I actually went to the gym, right? This is the part. Now, bear in mind, I've been working as a developer for 10 years, right? So for me, I'm kind of like in that, like those people that are at the gym in a developer perspective. I am kind of like that person that, I'll just go do the gym, and I know how to do it, and I'm all there. I walked into that gym and I just sat there like, how do they do it? Like there was a guy that was walking. Have you seen those step machines, like walking upstairs?
Yeah.
So I did that for like 5 minutes. And I was just like sweating, and I was like literally dying. I was dying. Comes a guy next to me. He just walks up with a whole this, like, it looked like his
weighted
body
vest.
armor.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
With like 50 kilos on the waist and another 25 kilos in your hands. And I was thinking, oh yeah, you're
Psycho.
gonna. I
You
don't
were
know
thinking
how long are
psycho.
you gonna
This guy's
last?
psychotic. That's what I would think.
Yeah. He walked for 35 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there like after 5 and feeling like I'm dying. And what I learned is what he had done, because I spoke to him afterwards, kind of like, how? And he's going, because he's done it for 8 months.
Yeah,
and every single day he added another kilo. That's all he did. And he started like 5 minutes and 10 minutes.
And you got to do the work. So here, Engine Boy's here. So I'm going to share like little story, because he shared the project. So he followed my community for a while, and I talked about building your first project, build a bug tracker so you could do CRUD. And I was literally talking from the standpoint of build the front end yourself and use some like CMS, like Strappy to make it easier. And then like he like disappeared. I was like, where did he go? And then like literally 3 months later, he's like, oh, I built my bug tracker. And he built the back end from scratch. He built the front end from scratch. And I asked him like, and that's an amazing project. Like, he's definitely not a junior developer in my eyes based on what he built. But I asked him, like, was it easy? He's like, no, it was hard. Like, I constantly struggled through it. I put in the work, and like, but every day I did a little bit something, a little bit something, a little bit something. And he created this amazing application. And the crazy part, it took him so long to build it that at the point that, like, by the time he was done, he was a way better developer that he was like, oh, all this code I wrote, like, in his mind, it's like, I could refactor it and make it better because I know things better. I understand things better. And that's the thing. You just need to put your feet to the fire and do the work. And that's why, like, I tell people, like, listen, there is no secret formula. And this is where I just constantly force myself to talk to other developers and constantly force myself to code live, especially in my current role right now. For instance, I work more as a developer advocate, which I love, but it's not all coding, but I still force myself to code. I still force myself to, like, I forced like Derek at my, Derek at my job to, we got to do an AMA that's internal to the company so I could learn more deeper stuff about code. I'm constantly like, I talk to you about code. I talk like to me, because like you have to do the thing that you want to be good at. Like if I, like using your weight loss example, if I eat ice cream every day because I do it every day consistently, I'm going to be really good at eating ice cream. Versus like if I do push-ups every day consistently, I'm going to be good at doing push-ups. So wherever you spend your time the most, that's what you're going to be good at. And I'm sorry, I know I have a YouTube channel and a YouTube videos, but if you watch YouTube consistently every day, you're going to be good at YouTube. Like, let that sink into you. Like, to be good at coding, you need to code. You need to code. That's just the facts. And if you haven't smashed the like button for that facts being dropped, you don't have to. I'm just saying.
I normally tell people, like I said, with students and whatnot, is consistency matters, right? Don't do like, by all means, depending if you're working or not working or whatnot, but 2 hours every day, like 2 hours every day, it's like going to the gym 2 hours every day, right? If you go 8 hours to the gym 5 days a week, you're not going to get any stronger by doing the push-ups, right? Like if I do 2 hours every day and you do 8 hours every day, you're theoretically, in the long run, I will actually get better at it in the stronger part, right? Because you might do 8 hours, take a day off, and then do 8 hours and then take it off. But if I do 2 hours every day, you will see that it's going.
You'll burn out, by the way, too, if you're doing like 8 hour days. Like, I mean, I
always say to people, do some coding, do some learning, do 2 hours, put on some headphones, take away your phone, your YouTube, everything else, and sit and think, what can I build? If you don't know what to build, okay, Google, what you can build. Like there is 100 billion ways of what you can come up with building. But the
Yeah.
best project that I tell my students when they go and they have to build 4 projects each for each stage. So one for HTML, one for JS, and everything else. So for HTML, everybody comes to me and go like, so what should I build? Like, bear in mind, these are people, like I had a student, he used to be a baker. He's a developer now, but it took him a year. And I said, what is it you're passionate about? He loved hiking. Like that was his main big passion. So I said, build a hiking website. You know, just build a website about hiking because you love it. Because then you start to put in TLC, which nobody can tell you how to do, and tender love and care is just because you are interested in it. Then he got to JS, and he literally fell off the planet, and it was so hard because he did not know anything and understand anything, or like functions and undefined and everything else. And I said to him, that's good. That's how you learn, right? And then he was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to build like a to-do list. And I said, well, how about you challenge yourself? Start using, build something with an API, like with the quiz thing that I said to you, right? And he goes, but that's like everybody else is doing it. And I said, well, the reason for it is if you learn how to use fetch and you can work with an API, it's going to give you a whole new world of stuff that you can ever use in everything, right? It's going to change the way you write it. And then little by little, he got better and better, and he started to trust himself in what he was doing, right? But he, every single day, regardless of what it was, if it was weekend, whatnot, like, I think the only time he told me that he didn't do it was family emergencies. That was the only thing. Other than that, he would consistently do it for a whole year. And then when he had about his last project, he built his own website on the side because he felt a little bit better with it. And then he started to apply for jobs, didn't get a lot. And then he started to network with people, and he did some code requests and just opening out and showcase himself. And then 3 months after he was finished, he got a job.
Wow.
Like done. Like it's fun for me to see from a person that's a baker up at 4 a.m. in the morning to bake bread to now just sleep into 8, 9 and start to do it. And this was just pre-COVID. But then again, all it took was, like he said, it was so much hard work because if you do 365 days a year with 2 hours every day, that's 700 hours of doing it. I bet that he did more than just 2 hours, right? But that is 700 hours at the gym. Like you will be able to push the bench for doing it.
And the main thing is coding and keeping consistent. I see him here saying he does 3 hours a day. And I think it's just picking something that's realistic you can do. Some people in different parts of their life, like sometimes they have more responsibility, they have a family, they have a full-time job. So if you have to wake up earlier and go to bed earlier just to get those 2-3 hours in, that's something you have to do. There's no kind of shortcut about. But to me, doing 2-3 hours, consistently, if you can't every day, then doing it just on the weekends is way more significant change that you're going to have. And by the way, if you're joining the stream late, definitely check out the beginning. We learned how to build a basic CLI. So it's pretty exciting. Definitely, if you missed that portion, you could always rewatch. They're always going to be on our YouTube channel. But we almost hitting 2 hours mark. So I want to just thank everybody who joined. We had at one point over 33 people in the chat, which is amazing. But thank you all for coming on. I always put these publicly available so you could rewatch them. Later when I come back, I'll put the chapter marks on it so you could easily find the appropriate sections. But we basically today did an intro to building CLIs, why you should learn to build CLIs and why they're awesome. But also with that being said, Simon, thank you so much for jumping on. Always welcome anytime. And I'm sure I'll have more questions for you. So
Pleasure.
we'll definitely have to do some streams as well. But with that being said, everybody have a great rest of the day, evening, or if it's nighttime and you're not sleeping, my gosh, you probably should sleep because I always put these streams on rerun. But if you did stay up, huge extra thank you. So thank you so much. And I'll chat with everybody later. Bye.